All right, let's do a post chat wrap up from my conversation with Caleb. Caleb Maupin, I believe how it's said. Journalist for RT. He was a journalist for somewhere before that. Seen him time to time, but never really knew he was outwardly left, but never really knew too much about his personal beliefs until we scheduled this conversation. Then I watched a few of his videos, and I pretty much gathered, okay, here's a guy who's pretty much liberal, but thinks he's not, and or thinks he's less liberal than he actually is. And I think this was abundantly clear in our discussion. First, that he, excuse me. This is brought to you by some good old coffee. Hot Java, Clint Eastwood style, nothing in it. So to him, this wasn't a chat like I thought it was with me. This didn't feel like a debate to me, but this was a debate to him. As he says on Twitter, I just debated on Skype with a self-proclaimed fascist, debunked a number of his arguments, and pointed to big inconsistencies in his thinking. The huge differences between himself and I were made abundantly clear. That was the main drive of this whole conversation, was he wanted to try to distance himself as much as he can from someone that, actually called himself a fascist. And this was his opportunity to do so, because apparently in his little lefty circle, they call him third positionist, because watching some of his videos, there are third, and this is why when we ended the discussion, I'm like, when it comes under a different name, you're probably going to be on board with it, because a lot of his beliefs, he is also anti-materialist. He made a whole video on his disagreement with Marxist materialism, Marxist dialectical materialism. So these are aspects, and he praises or promotes or speaks positively of Stalin's nationalizing and kind of the Leninist aspect of having a national revolution, not a global revolution. So I could see why some people in his corner are going to maybe accuse him of that kind of stuff. But he wanted to make sure that no one would confuse him for anything close to third position after this conversation. And much to his credit, he let me speak. I got interrupted early when I was going to go through the tenets of, what third position ideology was. And this is from looking at the comment section. Well, first, let me explain what my mentality was going into this conversation. I hoped it went the way that it turned out, and it could have went different. If I wanted to, there was some low-hanging fruit there, as he was doing the whole, clutching at my pearls, that, the violence fascists do. The hypocrisy of that coming from someone that supports, socialism and communism. The hypocrisy of that is laughable. And that's, so I made one point just to point out real fast, all this fascist violence is reactionary violence, is self-defense violence. The communists started the street violence before fascist organizations were even formed. And in large part, this is how fascist organizations came about, because they needed a strong, also fanatical street fighting people that are going to battle the commies, especially if you look at what was going on in Germany and Italy at that time, and then even in Spain. So I just got the main point out. Look, you can go on about this violence, but all the fascist organizations were self-defense in their violence. Okay, they didn't just go out there and start committing violence for the sake of violence. No, they were a defensive, a reactionary violence, or what I call righteous violence, violence in self-defense, and violence for a political belief. So I pointed that out, but then he just wanted to keep going. Like, that was his theme throughout the thing. Murder, death, KKK, fascism. Oh, it's just... And so he, to his credit, let me speak. And so I was able, he just didn't absorb anything I said. It just went boing, 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 murder, death, KKK, fascism. I just can't be with that stuff. So, and then I kept trying to explain, like, yeah, you got this Pavlovian pejorative of what fascism is. So, and, I say, you attach it to everything that's evil. And he kept doing that throughout the conversation. I just can't, the gas chambers, the Holocaust. So it was more clutching at my pearls. Oh, how, I've never, and this kind of mentality. But he let me speak, and fucking credit to him for that. I was very happy with this conversation. We could have went to nitpicking. I could have took the bait a couple times, and I didn't want that. The mindset going into this was, I wanted to present an image of third position that was different from the stereotypical thing portrayed by the media. And this is why, and I did that because if you look at the comments, the communists are confused as fuck. They don't know what a fascist is. So they're like, he's lying. He's just saying it wasn't real fascism. It wasn't this. It's like, no, I'm saying the people you were naming off weren't fascists. Sorry you don't know what fascism is. I'm sorry. It's that shows you how our education system is on this topic and how the media is on this topic, because they don't know what a real fascist is. And so now it's my fault. I'm a liar now because I'm not taking credit for all these clowns they call fascists. And especially, as I was saying, out of all these people you're naming, who's the fascist? Me. All the people that get called a fascist, whether on the left or the right, on Twitter, on mainstream media, which one of them has actually been a fascist, a third positionist? None of them. None of them. So it's he was still calling Augustus Sol Invictus a fascist. So that's my point. It's like, no, they're not. They're not. And anyone that is not going to shirk away from the title. Is not going, or he's not worth a fucking damn. So yeah, that was the whole point of that. And it worked. I presented something that they had never seen from a third positionist. Because they were just confused as fuck in the comments. I'm either lying, I'm either saying it's real fascism never happened, or never said any of that. And because to have disagreements with, I guess, methods of fascist leaders like Mussolini and him going into North Africa is somehow trying to like downplay. It's like, no, it's an honest disagreement with the policy taken. And for good reason. We see how that worked out. It was a bad, stupid idea. Or to acknowledge there's a king that was over Mussolini. Mussolini didn't have full control of it. He couldn't create completely the fascist society envisioned. That's a reality. That's just a reality. And like I said in the video, I wish or in the discussion, I wish they would have taken care of the king, So, yeah, I mean, I was very happy with how it went. I don't think we'll ever speak again, especially after like how he's explaining, what happened on Twitter. That it just utterly destroyed me and, destroyed inconsistencies. Like, I don't know. I think if inconsistencies in thinking was shown in that conversation, it definitely had to come from him. It definitely had to. Once again, he said going with violence, racism. They just love death and killing. I'm reading his book right here. The only book he's reading, or he's looking at, it appears, is Mussolini's autobiography, which good if he reads that front to back. I would be surprised if he did, but you're not going to get what fascist philosophy is through that. You need to read Gentile for that, right? If you want to get an understanding of that. So it's and then just like being very hyperbolic about everything. Murder, death, they just loved it. And like, no, they're patriots who fought for their country. That's not... So that is... Caleb is... He's typical in a sense of your intellectual... Mussolini hated books! He's typical in your sense of the fascist critique on intellectualism. Where it's... You see how... in The Effeminate Matter, he looked at war and warrior ethos, right? And how he tried to portray it. Now, I wonder if he would portray the murderous Bolsheviks in the same sense, right? I wonder if he would portray portray the Romanov family, women, children, a bunch of little girls, little sickly boy, being shot to death in a room or a cellar. Actually being shot so many times because they had jewels sewn to them that it was acting as a bulletproof vest, and they had to keep shooting brutally these little girls. I wonder if Ukrainians would have such a favorable impression of the Bolsheviks or the kulaks, right? I wonder how they view the Bolsheviks and their violence, right? So on one hand, he's murder, death, that's all they ever wanted. And then on the other, I'm sure he would romantically portray all of those things, right? So, and once again, I didn't want that. That's just a typical conversation that happens with a comedy. I did not want it to devolve into that and be like, well, look at this. And, start bringing up Romanov family, start bringing up, you want to talk about, violence and all that. Lenin was involved in assassination attempts. Stalin was a bank robber and a petty criminal. And it's like, so, if you, meanwhile, Hitler was a homeless painter who went to war and won medals of honor during war for being brave. And Mussolini, another person who was just essentially a public school teacher, and also went patriotically to war for his country. So I don't know, when you're comparing the people, and like I said, is that what our conversation should have been? Should it have devolved into who gets the better points? No, I hate those kind of conversations. As most of you know, I'm not the great debater, right? It's a conversation where we can express our ideas, where we can start seeing where we disagree and agree. That's what I like. I think that's how you get some kind of something out of the conversation, right? Debate, it's all points. It's, package everything up, hit him, bring up some stats that he's not ready for, hit him with that, then have him fumbling over that. Like, I hate that method of talk, of talking with people. So despite that, I thought it went very well. I thought I was able to get out a lot. Like I said, he just didn't absorb any of it. And he refused to, and he didn't want to, and he never went in there with an open ear, which is fine, because he at least let me speak. He at least did that. And it's already, the comment sections are lit underneath his video. He's getting more views than he usually gets on his videos. So it's a lively conversation. And even though, and much respect to the people in the conversation, like smacking these commies around in there, because they're saying the most retarded shit. And then part of me just wants to respond to them all and like, what the fuck were you watching? What did I, and then, but I know I can't. I would drive myself crazy. So I have replied under a couple things where I thought I can at least link someone to another video to give them, better interpretation. And who knows if they're even serious. With most of these people, they're just going to be like, fuck you no matter what, right? And so there is some of that in the comment section. And I do my best to ignore that kind of stuff. I do the best not to take the bait. But props and to the people out there that are in that comment section that are giving them what for in there. Because just seeing it over and over again, they simply don't know what a fascist is. So obviously we're liars. Obviously, they're liberal professors, the History Channel, public school teachers, and, leftist, effeminate intellectuals that are champions of working men. Know better. Not us. No, not people that, dedicate, their whole content creation to explaining and breaking down philosophy written by the fascist philosophers, the history shown by fascism. People like that don't know what fascism is. It's the other people that call KKK, Sol Augustus Invictus, gas chambers. It's them. They know what fascism is. So I think it was great. I'm pleased with the conversation. I look forward to more conversations like that with anyone that's going to have a real dialogue. Because I was serious when I read the Primo de Rivera quote. I'm serious about that. And that's something, it's kind of tragic for him. Like I said, murdered by this leftist firing squad in prison. That, they were fighting for Spain. And we saw what Spain became. And if the leftists really gave a damn about Spain, the people, the country, the history of it, and where it could go, De Rivera was right. Their ideological gulfs were not. They were little valleys. And it's conversations like that. Get started this one. Someone said in the comments section, I think it was on Telegram chat, someone said something, but he's like, Caleb was the wrong guy to do this with. And that might be right, but he was also the first guy to do something like this with, and he was not going to be the last. So yeah, his whole thing was to go in there and essentially just look blank faced as I said something, and then went right past him, then go right back to, well, what about beating your wife? Don't fascists beat their wives? I don't support beating your wives, so I can't support that fascism stuff. I want all my viewers to know I don't support fascism because I don't support beating my wife. That kind of stuff. So even though he was an actor like that, that's fine. You let me speak. That's all I ask. You don't need to listen to me. Just fucking let me speak and get it out there. And then someone else stumbling across the video may or may not, have their opinion changed. And so, hopefully there'd be more. I'm not looking to I know there's like certain like liberal, Destiny Voosh or Vaush. I vaguely know them. I don't know, but I also know from what I hear, they're just nasally, cunty, loudmouth, same neoliberal bullshit. I don't care. I don't care about that. I want real like economic leftists. I want people who are even argue against nationalism. But these kinds of people to have these kind of conversations, not just a shit flinging competition so they can make their subscriber base happy and get more super chats out of it, but conversations with true economic leftists, because contrary to what some people say, these people can be won over. So yeah, I was very happy with it, and so props to him for even having an open discussion with a fascist and being civil about it. So I do appreciate that. So, and from the comments I'm seeing from most of the people subscribed here, you thought it went well as well, and it's so I'm happy with that. With the Molyneux thing, it was the opposite. I wasn't happy with it at all, but the comments showed very different comments. Even his own people saw like the bullshit Stefan was playing. In this one, the comments are ideologically divided, but the commies have no idea what they're talking about, and it's abundantly clear. And their rejection of like, oh God, he's just lying and making up stuff and disclaiming everyone that's not a fascist. And it's like, well, no, you gotta name some first. You gotta name some. So yeah, thought it went well. I guess that's it for now. Cheers, guys.